Prabhupada ki, Ananta Vaishnava Vrinda ki, Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki, Prem Se Kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki, Go Premanandi, all glorious assembled devotees, all glorious assembled devotees, all glorious assembled devotees, all glorious the lotus feet of Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay, today we're reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 9, Chapter 9, text number 47. Atesha Maya Ratiteshu Sangam Guneshu Gandharva Purupamishu Rudam Prakrityatmi Vishwa Kartur Bhavena Hitva Tam Aham Prapadye Ate Samaya Rajiteshu Sangam Guneshu Gandhava Puro Pameshu Rudam Prakrityatmane Vishvakartur Bhavena Hitva Tamaham Prapadye Ate Samaya Rachiteshu Sangam Guneshu Gandhava Puro Pameshu Rudam Prakrityatmane Vishvakartur Bhavena Hitva Tamaham Prapadye. Ata, therefore, Ishamaya, by the external potency of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Rachiteshu, in things manufactured. Sangam, attachment. Guneshu, in the modes of material nature. Gandhava Pura Upameshu, which are compared to the illusion of a Gandharva Pura, a town or houses seen in the forest or on a hill. Drudham, very powerful. Prakritya, by material nature. Atmani, onto the supersoul. Vishvakartu, of the creator of the whole universe. Bhavena, by devotional service. Hitva, giving up. Tam, unto him, the Lord. Aham, I. Prapadye, surrender. Translation. This is Maharaj Kadvanga speaking. Therefore, I should now give up my attachment for things created by the external energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. I should engage in thought of the Lord and should thus surrender unto him. This material creation, having been created by the external energy of the Lord, is like an imaginary town visualized on a hill or in a forest. Every conditioned soul has a natural attraction and attachment for material things, but one must simply give up this attachment and surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. When passing through a mountainous region in an airplane, one may sometimes see a city in the sky with towers and palaces. Or one may see similar things in a forest. This is called Gandharva Pura, a phantasmagoria. This entire world resembles such a phantasmagoria, and every materially situated person has attachment for it. But Kadvanga Maharaj, because of his advanced Krishna consciousness, was not interested in such things. Even though a devotee may engage in apparently materialistic activities, he knows his position very well. Nirbandha Krishna Sambandhe Yuktam Vairagya Uchate. If one engages all material things in relation with his loving service of the Lord, one is situated in Yukta Vairagya, proper renunciation. In this material world, nothing should be accepted for one's sense gratification. Everything should be accepted for the service of the Lord. This is the mentality of the spiritual world. Maharaj Kadvanga advises that one give up material attachments and surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Thus one achieves success in life. This is pure bhakti yoga, which involves vairagya vidya, renunciation and knowledge. Vairagya vidya nija bhakti yoga, Siksharshtam eka purusham purana. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Sharira Dari Kripam Buddhir Yas Tam Aham Prapadye. Let me surrender unto the personality of Godhead, who has appeared now as Lord Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He is the ocean of all mercy and has come down to teach us material detachment, learning, and devotional service to himself. Chaitanya Chandrodaya Nataka 674. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu inaugurated this movement of Vairagya Vidya, by which one detaches himself from material existence and engages in loving devotional service. The Krishna consciousness movement of devotional service is the only process by which to counteract our false prestige in this material world. Translation again, I'll say you, please repeat. Therefore, I should now give up my attachment for things created by the external energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. I should engage in thought of the Lord and should thus surrender unto Him. This material creation, having been created by the external energy of the Lord, is like an imaginary town visualized on a hill or in a forest. Every conditioned soul has a natural attraction and attachment for material things, but one must simply give up this attachment and surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Om Agyantimirandasya Giranjana Shlakaya Chakshuruminitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manovistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupakadamayam Dadati Swapadandegam. We are born in the darkness of ignorance, but our spiritual master has kindly forced open our eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. Therefore we offer our most humble and respectful obeisances unto His lotus feet. Namo Vishnubhadaya Krishnamastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namane Namaste Sarasvati Devi Gauravani Prachadine Nirvisesha Sunyavadi Paschachadistadine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadha Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Vancha kalpatribhasya kripasinnivevacha patitan mamanivu vaishnavivu namo namah. I wanted to thank Bhima Prabhu for drafting me to give the class this morning. I also want to thank all the devotees for maintaining such a beautiful temple for the pleasure of Srila Prabhupada. Very happy to be here with all of you today. So today we are hearing Maharaj Kadvanga's conclusion. The first word in this shloka is Ata. So we know that in the Vedanta Sutra, Atato Brahma Jignasa, it's explained that that means, Ata means now, or therefore. So Atato Brahma Jignasa means that after circulating through the material creation, 8,400,000 different species of life, the living being who's fortunate enough to attain a human form of life, Brahma Jignasa, should inquire into the purpose of life, the nature of the Supreme, the nature of the relationship of ourselves with the Supreme. So here, Maharaj Kadvanga is saying Ata. He said now. Now means what? Now means after his recent shocking experience. Maharaj Kadvanga was fully empowered to act as a great Maharaj, a great king of the world. He was very strong. He had incredible weapons at his command, like all kings. He had great opulence. Sure, he even had, obviously he had family and position in the world, but he was struck suddenly in an interesting way. So he had fought very valiantly on behalf of the demigods. They had requested him to assist them in their continual battle between the right and wrong, between the demons and the devotees. And he pleased them very much by his service. You see, even in the material world, if you please somebody by your service, it is very pleasing. They feel obligated to you. Some businesses in this world, not Krishna consciousness, but businesses, they promote their product through service. Service is our motto. Service is our business, sometimes they say. Because if a customer is treated right, served very nicely, trying to satisfy their inquiries, then the likelihood of an exchange, a monetary exchange usually, takes place. So it's a material principle. So here, the demigods were very pleased with Maharaj Kadvanga's service, and they offered him a benediction. And the benediction was, ask us whatever you want. So Maharaj Kadvanga, as explained in the previous verses, he was a Rajarshi. He was trained already in the real values of life. And he was explaining even in his childhood, he was never really interested in playing and everything. And he understood that the real value, the most important thing, is the association of devotees and the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, when he was asked such an incredible benediction that their demigods were willing to benedict him with anything that he desired only to know how much time he had in this life. How much time do I have? When will I die? When is the moment of my death? He asked. And he received a shocking answer. The moment of your death will be in 1 minute. In one moment, the moment of your death will be in one minute. He was shocked. He was shocked into immediately a state of renunciation of material pursuits and a state of pure devotion to the Lord. We'll see throughout the Srimad Bhagavatam, there are many instances of devotees being shocked. Devotees being shocked by the onslaught, the sudden onslaught of the material nature and their different reactions. Here, Maharaj Kadvanga focused his mind completely on the Supreme Personality of Godhead in one moment. And Prabhu said that even just that one moment of devotional service was all he needed to go back home, back to Godhead. One moment of pure devotional service. That's how valuable one moment of time is. Chanakya Pandit explains that one moment of time is so valuable that even if you have millions of dollars, if you waste it, you cannot buy it back for millions of dollars. So one moment in Krishna consciousness is such a glorious thing. Let alone one who can give their life to Krishna consciousness. And that's why Prahlad Maharaj, he says that Komaraya Achara Pragno, that in the beginning, it is best. In the beginning of life, one becomes trained in Krishna consciousness in this bhakti yoga process, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam. This is the process for going back home, back to Godhead, to be absorbed. So there's many stories. We know Srimad Bhagavatam is based on the story of Maharaj Parikshit. What was he doing with his life? He was just going around his daily occupation, being the king of the world. And he met a sage who was performing Manavrata. He felt temporarily overcome with anger and dissatisfaction with the way he was treated. He put us into reciprocate with that kind of cold treatment. He put a dead snake around the sage's neck, and in 1 minute, he was cursed by the son of that Brahmin, Shringi, to die within 7 days. He was just going about his daily affairs, and suddenly, shockingly, his whole life was turned upside down. Luckily, of course, he was trained in understanding that the goal of life, atato brahma jignasa, is to inquire into the Supreme. So he took shelter of great sages and inquired from them. And that's, we hear, the Srimad Bhagavatam. Maharaj Pandu, great king of the world. He was just going about doing his duties as a king. And he was hunting in the forest, which was allowed. And he saw 2 deer. He shot his arrow. He shot his arrow at the deer, and when he hit them, cried out in a human voice. They cried out in a human voice, "How have you done this? Why have you done this horrible injustice to us?" And they shed their deer-like bodies, and they emanated. It happened to be two sages, a husband and a wife. They were renunciates living in the forest, and in order to enjoy a intimate relationship, they had taken the bodies of the deer, so they immediately cursed them. "Just as you have killed us while we were mating, when you try to mate with your wife, you will also die." So what was his reaction to the shock? He was shocked. Immediately he thought, what is the use? If I can't have sex life, what is the use of living, practically? So he decided to renounce his kingdom and went into the forest. He renounced. So what is the use? So this is the state of mind one has to have in order to really make spiritual advancement. What is the use of sense gratification, right? It says that at the crematorium, everyone is a philosopher at the crematorium, because when you see the bodies burning, you're thinking, oh my God, this is the end result. Ashes, stool, or worms. This is the end result of all my endeavors. Even if I accumulate millions of dollars, achieve a great position, you start thinking like that. This is the end. This is the end package. Just ashes. So why should I work so hard? Why should I endeavor so hard for sense gratification? And of course, this is the message of the Srimad Bhagavatam. The human form of life is not meant for sense gratification, but to keep body and soul together in pursuing a life of self-realization. So this is all of our predicaments. Srimad Bhagavatam gives a lesson for us, a practical lesson, that we should know that this shock is going to come upon us one time or another. Radhanath Swami, he tells a story about how he was meditating on the bank of the Ganges, and above his head there was some bird flying, some hawk or eagle. And he was looking down in the river, and there was some fish. And he looked 1 second, the fish is swimming. The next second, the fish is climbed up in the claws of the hawk. So what happened to that fish? He's just swimming. He's just doing his thing with his friends, with his family. And the hawk of time removes him from that situation. So we are not conscious of our precarious position. Therefore, we have to be reminded constantly through hearing from the scriptures. Padam padam yavipadam natesham. That we are in a precarious position. We have this human form of life. We are meant for God realization, and we don't pursue it with enthusiasm. Manda samanda mateo, in Kali Yuga especially, we are overcome with laziness. We're overcome with laziness and not having energy for self-realization. We're putting off, right? Procrastination. We're putting off what should be done today to tomorrow, or maybe never. We always think that death is not here, death is not close, death is 10 years away, 20 years away. Thus we make our plans to be in this world. So Prabhupada here is quoting in the purport, he's giving examples how the material world, all the material energy, it's combined in such an attractive way that we are naturally, the conditioned soul says here, the conditioned soul is naturally attracted and attached to the material world, to material phenomenon. It is so amazingly arranged by Krishna, but the material nature is working under his direction. But it's very, should I say, dazzling in its composition, the material world. Prabhupada was talking about, I was reading the other day, Prabhupada was talking about the law of satiation. In the material world, there's different laws. We know that you cannot overcome the laws of material nature. Krishna says, Daiva yesha gunamai, mama maya dratya. The material nature is very, very difficult to overcome. Very difficult to overcome. But Krishna says, if one surrenders unto me, then he can overcome it. That is the only way out of the material clutches. So material nature is so arranged that it's hard to see the truth with our eyes. Therefore, devotees are not trying to see the truth with their eyes. They try to hear the truth by their ears. Jnana shakshu, We have to learn to see through the eyes of the Scripture, to see through the eyes of the teachings of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and His devotees. And when we do, then we're able to see things as they are. So the material nature, the verse is explaining, Maharaj Kadvanga is explaining that just like you might see something fantastic in the forest, looks like a castle, or see something in the sky or on the hill, and you're thinking, oh, I'm just going to get to it. Prabhupada sometimes calls this a mirage in the desert. It looks like there's a beautiful source of water, a lake, a stream, something, and a person who's thirsty will go and try to attain that mirage, that lake. Doesn't know it's a mirage. He goes there when the conditions, when a foolish person goes and tries to quench his thirst from the lake, it's simply burning sands. So the material nature is designed like that. What looks like happiness, what looks like a place of pleasure, actually comes out to be nothing but burning sand. That is frustrating. So every person is affected by this law of satiation. That material energy, it gives some pleasure. We get some new toy as a child, or we get some new man toy, a computer, a car, new house, these things, and there's a feeling of pleasure when we get something new. But the law of satiation is such that everything new becomes old after some time, and then no longer gives that same pleasure. And therefore, that is the trap of material nature. So, Prabhupada's quoting here from the Chaitanya Chandrodaya, Vairagya Vidya Dija Bhakti Yoga, that devotional service, there are two things. In human form of life, there are two things required. There is jnana and vairagya. Jnana and vairagya. Jnana means knowledge. Knowledge of the soul, knowledge of matter, knowledge of spirit. And vairagya means renunciation. Not to pursue. Just like these devotees we mentioned here as examples, they stop pursuing material sense gratification. Now that is very difficult to do unless one gets a higher taste. So, Vairagya Vidya Nija Bhakti Yoga. So let me take shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, who has descended in the form of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, to teach us real knowledge, His devotional service, and detachment. So Lord Chaitanya, He taught that. He taught that by His own life. He was young, handsome, married to a very beautiful young girl. He had a very devoted mother. He gave it all up to take sannyas and engage fully in devotional service to the Lord. Of course, devotional service unto Himself, because He is none different than Krishna. He is Krishna, Supreme Personality of Godhead. So He's showing by His example how to give it up. So Prabhupada saying here, this verse is, actually in the verse says, one must simply give up this attachment. On the one hand, Prabhupada is saying his natural attraction and attachment is there for every conditioned soul. We're naturally attracted by the material energy. We're naturally become attached to the material energy. Dhyato vishayam pumsam. This is a state, by contemplating objects of senses. Person develops attachment for them. From such attachment, lust, increased desire, like that. So this is the natural state of the conditioned soul. It's a predicament. It says it's natural. This is the natural state. So we can't we become detached. because this energy is pulling us toward these objects of the senses. So what is the solution? How do we become detached if we're being constantly attracted and constantly pulled? Without being detached, there's no question of making spiritual advancement. Bhogaishvarya prasakta anam. Krishna says that one who is too attached, for those who are too attached to material sense gratification, opulence, the resolute determination for devotional service does not take place. So when Prabhupada came to America, he tricked everybody. He tricked his first disciples into engaging in devotional service. He never talked about renunciation. He never introduced the four regular principles in the beginning. He simply came and started to give. He gave Krishna Katha. He gave Hari Kirtan. He gave Krishna Prasadam. He gave his own association. And for weeks, the devotees were thinking, wow, this is really nice, Krishna consciousness. Just getting prasadam and getting association, having kirtan. Then one day, on the mirror in the bathroom, he wrote, all my disciples must follow these four regular principles. What? No meat eating, no illicit sex, no intoxication, no gambling. He didn't come to preach. He didn't preach renunciation. But he gave the higher taste. He gave Krishna consciousness freely from his own heart. And when they became attracted by him as Krishna's representative, and by the holy name, and by the delicious prasadam that they were taking, and engagements, Prabhupada was smart enough to give them, Prabhupada was so intelligent, he was giving them not only these processes, but giving them practical engagement to engage their talent in the devotional service of the Lord. Somebody was a writer, he engaged them in writing. Someone was an artist, he engaged them in painting. Someone was a salesman, he gave them Back to Godhead magazines to sell, like that. And that devotional service, the practical activities of Shravanam, Kirtan, Vishnu, Smaranam, Padasevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Nasam, Sakam, Atmani, Vedanam. By engaging in devotional service, there is an exchange of pleasure between the soul and the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And in an exchange, that is bhakti. When one tastes bhakti, then the lower taste. Bhagavad Gita explains, only by having a higher taste can one give up the lower taste. So, this is the universal process of Krishna consciousness, to spread the spiritual energy around through the chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare. The distribution of transcendental literature. When one hears the truth, when one hears the truth, becomes satisfied. The hankering for hearing different things becomes pacified. So by distributing Prabhupada's books and getting people to read them, by Harinam Sankirtan, and getting people to engage in the process of hearing and chanting, by distributing prasadam, this is the time-tested method for not only bringing others into Krishna consciousness, but to keep ourselves in Krishna consciousness. To keep ourselves in Krishna consciousness. We can't, like when Prabhupada was writing these, at one point, devotees were glorifying Prabhupada, but he gave us so many nice books to distribute. And Prabhupada said, these books are not just for distribution, they are for reading. They are for you. You must read these books. Shruti Kirti tells the story how Prabhupada, he walked into Prabhupada's room, and Prabhupada was reading Bhagavad Gita. And he said, have you read this book? Have you ever read this book? Have you read this book? This is amazing. He said, Prabhupada, didn't you write it? He said, yes. No, I didn't write it. Krishna has written this book. He said, if you just read one chapter of Bhagavad Gita, if you just read this one book, your life will be perfect. So Shruti Kirti was kind of looking Okay, well, Prabhupada knew that he wasn't reading very much at that time. He was very busy serving. He said, if you just read one chapter of this book, your life can be perfect. Why one chapter? Just read one verse of this book. Your life will be perfect. You can perfect your life just by reading one verse. Why one verse? Just one word of this book. Your life can be perfect. Prabhupada was indirectly pleading with them to please read these books. They're so valuable. It's so much of a solution for our mental problems, our spiritual problems, our problem of material existence, being a material existence. So these are the higher tastes. These processes of Krishna consciousness are a higher taste, of which then we can become detached. When the time comes, when our shock comes, we're always shocked. Actually, if you think about it, we can be, shocking experiences are going on in the material world all the time. When somehow or another somebody's connected to us, or when a circumstance happens to us, then we can maybe get serious. When a god brother suddenly leaves this world, like the other day, Prabhupada disciple in Florida was driving his cycle, and the truck pulled out in front of him. He didn't see it. Boom! 1 second, he died. He left his body. Of course, he was always He was always engaging himself in Krishna consciousness. So there's no lamentation for such a passing. But still, we should think: am I ready for that? Am I ready? Am I thinking of Krishna? I used to have, on Sankirtan, I used to go out with one devotee, Chandi Das, God brother. And we would be chanting together on the road, chanting our rounds. And he had a habit of sometimes taking me by the shoulders, looking me in the eye and say, you're chanting, but what are you thinking about right now? What are you thinking about? What's going on in your mind right now? And I was always too embarrassed to tell him what I was thinking about. But it's true. What are we thinking about right now? Manmana Baba Bhakto. This is what Maharaj Kadvanga is explaining here. I should now engage my thought in the Supreme Lord. He's got 1 minute. Okay? 1 minute. What should I do? I should engage in thought of the Lord and thus surrender unto Him. So whether it's 1 minute of Maharaj Kadvanga's example here, or our next minute, right? Maharaj Parikshit was fortunate. He found out he had 7 days. Maharaj Kadvanga was fortunate. He found out he had 1 minute. How many minutes do you have? Nobody knows. So we have to prepare ourselves and try to live a life of consciousness. We have to be Krishna conscious, means to be thinking of our precarious situation at every moment and taking shelter of the Supreme Personality of God. And Krishna says that one who knows the transcendental nature, Janma Karma Tume Divyam, one who knows the transcendental nature of my appearance and disappearance in this world, doesn't have to take birth again. So this is the key. This is the essential verse. Out of the Bhagavad Gita, there's this verse, Manmana Bhava Bhakto. You find it twice. When something is emphasized through repetition, we know that it's important. So somehow or another, Prabhupada said we have to live our life, we have to plan our life, and to make our schedule in such a way that we can always think of Krishna. So thinking of Krishna is a result. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam. So the most important feature of remembering Krishna is to hear about him constantly. Therefore, we have Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. We have an instruction from the Srimad Bhagavatam. We should always be hearing. So to the degree that we hear, that's the degree we'll remember, and that's the degree we'll be able to explain Krishna consciousness to others. So we'll stop here for today. Any questions or comments anyone would like to make, or any reflections on things that were said in the verse or in the purport that somebody would like to examine again? Hare Krishna.
Sir, I have got two questions. Here is another case where there was no guru who initiated Khatwang Maharaj, and on his own alone he could go to Golok Dham. So how it can be explained? And secondly, Khatwang Maharaj had Panch Mahabhut Sharir, whereas demigods and Asura have only 3 elements: ether, water, ether, fire, and so to this body, how he could fight with those having 3 Mahabhut, not Panch Mahabhut? Because if they attack, the earth element is the first thing to collapse in the body. Suppose somebody shoots an arrow or a bullet, then the earth element is punctured, and that is why he dies. So here the thing is that either he should have 3 element body, or otherwise with Panch Mahabhut Sharir, how he could defeat Asura? That is my question. In case it is known or you are aware of it, I am not examining you or anything, but this is a discrepancy that Panch Mahabhut body fought with 3 Mahabhut bodies and conquered.
So what was the first part of your question? What was the first?
Without guru, without initiation, without any type of devotee association.
Oh, no. It's explained in previous verses that, first of all, that he had a tremendous respect for the Brahmins. So he had, the kings are not independent. They don't make the decisions independently. They're always guided by Brahmins. So he had a lot of association with Brahmins who were constantly not only guiding him in his practical service of being a king, but in the purpose of life. So he was familiar with the purpose of life. That's why he was able to perfect his life when the time came for him to be tested by Krishna. Death is the ultimate test by Krishna. So he was already prepared by his good association. And he says that even my life, he said in the previous verses, not even my life is dearer to me than the Brahminical culture and the Brahmins. So he was very attached to devotee association, so much so that he thought that my life is nothing compared to the life of these Brahmins and Brahminical culture. So therefore, he had guidance. He wasn't just a materialistic king. He was in the right culture, Vedic culture. As far as your other question, whether or not he had the kind of body to be able to fight alongside the demigods, is that the question, as I understand it? No. I don't really have much insight into that. I think that it says here he was fighting on behalf of the demigods. So he was either, I think that he was brought, just like Arjuna was brought to the heavenly planets, and he was able to live there with his body. He had a certain benediction from his father Indra to enter into the heavenly planets and do things there. So I don't see why, if he was very dear to the demigods, he couldn't have been brought. At one place, Prabhu says that after he fought and had his benediction, he came down to planet Earth. In another place, Prabhu mentions that. So I don't know if that's such a critical question. So some insight here, Bhima Prabhu?
Well, he wasn't fighting the demigods, he was fighting the demons.
He was fighting the demons on the side of them.
And another thing is that many times the demigods empower, the living entities on the earthly planet. Like Indra, he gave weapons to Arjuna.
Exactly.
And they give empowerments. So he's fighting on their behalf. Certainly, Khatvanga got empowered by the demigods to fight on their behalf.
Even if he didn't have a heavenly body, he still could, by being empowered, he could fight and make situations favorable.
Well, I have a question. You talked about shocking experiences will come. So when these shocking experiences, I mean, it might not be so shocking as Katvanga Maharaj that you got 1 minute to live, but you know, everything that happens to us in life, we get really, you know, affected by it. So how do we deal with these things from a Krishna conscious point of view?
So this is where training and practicing Krishna consciousness, hearing that actually not a blade of grass moves without the sanction of Krishna. So when there's something shocking, we can always see that actually Krishna's hand behind it. If we see Krishna's hand behind it, then we feel confident that it's going to be all right, because Krishna's actually allowing it to happen. So that's what Krishna consciousness means. But still, things can be shocking because we don't expect things to happen to us. This was the greatest, the most wonderful thing in the world, right? Is that everyone knows everyone's dying, their father, their mother, their grandfather, but somehow the living being doesn't think I'm not going to die quite yet. So that's the most wonderful thing that was explained by, it was explained to Maharaj Yudhisthira, actually answered that question. What is the most wonderful thing in the world? So, yeah, by understanding that not a blade of grass moves without the sanction of Krishna, and actually not only that, but for one who's actually trying to engage in Krishna consciousness, then even if things go bad or they're shocking or it looks not good, devotees should know that actually what's happening to me has been minimized. Rather than thinking, okay, I'm just going to tolerate this very extreme difficulty, the real attitude of a real devotee is, I want to be thankful because actually I deserve a lot worse. For the things that I've done wrong, the sins that I've committed, my leaving Krishna, coming to this material world to try to enjoy whatever's happened to me, actually, Krishna, you're minimizing it because I am trying a little bit to come back to your lotus feet. This is the attitude of the devotee, and it's the ultimate self-help remedy too. That if you actually think like that, you'll always be happy. If you think that whatever happens actually could have been a lot worse, and I'm just being called to accept that and appreciate Krishna's kindness, then our destination is guaranteed. So that's required, a change of consciousness, how we see things that happen. But the conditioned soul is like it's always shocking. I mean, it's because we don't really. We're in a world of impermanence where we're trying to make permanent. We think our friends, our relationships, we're kind of acting as if they're permanent, and thinking like that. So when they're suddenly taken away, it's shocking. But we have to know how to deal with that shock through knowledge. Through knowledge. Okay, any other questions or comments, reflections? Thank you for your kind attention. Srimad Bhagavatam Grantaraj ki, Srila Prabhupada ki.